Hey y'all, it's Julie, the nursing tutor. I want to talk to y'all about interpreting ABGs. It's going to be simple by the time we're done. Okay, the first thing you have to know is that the normal pH is 7.35 to 7.45. It's paradise. For all our organs and our cells, they function at optimum when our pH is between 7.35 and 7.45. Then you have to know CO2. And the cool thing about it is if you drop them sevens, CO2 is 35 to 45. Okay? And then HCO3, which is bicarb, is 22 to 26. Your book may say 21 to 27. I'm just going with this, but the process is the same. Okay, so when I'm looking at ABG, all I'm going to do is put arrows up and down, arrows. If it's high, I'm going to do an arrow up. If it's low, compared to these numbers that I know right here, all I'm doing is putting arrows up or down, okay? So a pH of 7.31, that's low. My arrows are flicked, but it's all right. A CO2, PaCO2 and CO2 are the same thing. This one's 48. That's high compared to that, huh? Yeah. And then a bicarb of 26, that's cool right there. He's just chilling. Okay. And when we use the Rome method to tell what it is, it means respiratory opposite. So my arrow for the respiratory, CO2 represents the lungs, and bicarb or HCO3 represents the kidneys. So PCO2 would be the respiratory part of it, and bicarb, which is kidneys, we call that metabolic. Metabolic, okay? For the problem to be originating in the lungs, the CO2 has to be going opposite. Opposite of what? Opposite the pH. So all the pH is telling you is if it's acidosis or alkalosis. And this is how my mind works. Acidosis and alkalosis. AC is closer to the beginning of the alphabet than AL. And if I change the alphabet to numbers, AC would be closer to 1 and AL would be on out here. The pH scale is 1 to 14. So if the normal pH is 7.35 to 7.45, if it's less than that, it's going to be acidosis. If it's greater than that, it's going to be alkalosis. And of course, I told you in another video, alkalosis has low K in it. And our concern with alkalosis is low potassium. And I don't care what's wrong with you. If you're losing potassium, you're saving sodium. Whether we talking about alkalosis or, whatever else. In the game of life, if you're losing potassium, you're gaining sodium. So for acidosis, our concern would be high potassium and a low sodium. But that's just a refresher. So lower than 7.35 is going to be acidosis. Higher than 7.45 is going to be alkalosis. Okay? So the pH is simply telling us acid or alkalosis. This is acidosis. And for the problem to be originating in the lungs, I should have done that at the beginning, but look, you're going to be all right. Metabolic. The CO2 has to be going the opposite of the pH. For it to be a metabolic, the bicarb has to be going the same way as the pH. So for this right here, the pH tells me it's acid and PCO2 is going opposite, so I know it's respiratory acidosis. Let's do another one. Come on now, it's going to be good. 7.29 is low. And a CO2 of 37, that's cool. Bicarb of 19, that's low. So for this is telling me it's acid. And for the problem to be originating in the kidneys, the bicarb has to be going the same way as the pH, which here it is. So this would be metabolic acidosis. I heard a little ding-a-ling in some of your heads, the light going off. Let's do another one. So the pH is 7.48. Well, that's up. The CO2 is 30. That's low. And the bicarb is 23. That was a normal range. So the pH is telling me alkalosis, and the CO2 going opposite tells me respiratory alkalosis. I like this because I really don't even have to think about it, because all I'm doing is putting arrows, because I learned this right here. If you don't know them, I'd get a 3x5 index card and I'd put pH, and on the other side I'd put 7.35, 7.45, and then I'd put all three of these if I didn't know them. And then I flashed myself till I knew it. Would take, but I mean, dookie fart, just 3 of them, you have that licked in about 7 minutes maybe. Okay, look, number 4, you can still see it. 7.45, that's up. The CO2 is 40, that's cool. And the bicarb is 31. Dookie fart, what have you been doing? So the pH tells me alkalosis. The bicarb going the same direction tells me it's metabolic alkalosis. You see that? I believe you see it. So, oh, dookie fart. No, don't look. Okay. I say dookie fart, y'all. I mean, I say it all the time because I quit cussing one cuss word at a time. And I'm on the S word. I used to say fart, but there were things that just more critical than just a fart. So I added dookie, and everybody seemed to understand. Okay, number 5. This pH is 7.74. My word. 7.74. That's that may not be compatible with life, Homer. You keep on doing what you're doing. Okay, but that's high. The CO2 is 25, and that's low. And the bicarb is 24. So he's just chilling, hanging in a nice spot. So the pH tells me it's alkaline, and the CO2 going opposite tells me it is respiratory alkalosis. Period. Okay. So I want you to, I'm pumped about these next ones. And I'm finna show you why. So the pH is 33. Yep, you're right. That's low. The CO2 is 36. That's normal. The bicarb is 16. Goodness, that's low. So this would be, that's telling me it's acidosis, and it would be metabolic acidosis. Okay? Now I want to show you something. If the pH was 7.33 and the CO2 was 29, that's low. And the bicarb was 16, they're all out of whack. But we have to go by what follows this. Respiratory is going the same way. So we know it's not respiratory acidosis. It's metabolic, but it's partially compensated because when the kidneys are jacked up and it's messing with the pH, the lungs will say, screw this nonsense. I'm fixing to take one for the team, and I'm fixing to do what I can to inch that pH back up where I want to go. Because they're willing to take one for the team if we can get it back to paradise, 7.35 to 7.45. So this would be metabolic acidosis, and it's partially compensated. Why is it partially compensated? Because the pH is still out of whack. But you see, the kidneys are doing what they need to do. So I want you to think about this. If the CO2 is low, carbon dioxide, are they hyperventilating or do they have decreased respirations? They are hyperventilating. The lungs have started breathing deeper and faster to try to get rid of some of that CO2, because the two things that control your pH is the lungs and the kidneys. The lungs are quick to respond, but if the CO2 is low, then they are hyperventilating. I got one where the CO2 is high. I'm going to talk to you about that here in a second. So this would be partially compensated metabolic acidosis. Now look at here. I did this same thing. I'm going to leave this here so you can see. So now this one, it has a pH of 7.35, and that's good. Although it's on the low end, it's good, but I mean, it probably just flown back over to a 3.5, probably was just a 4.5. The PCO2 is low, and the bicarb is low. This is the same from over here. But because the pH is back within the normal range, it's considered to be fully compensated metabolic acidosis. Why is it fully compensated? Because the lungs did what they set out to do, and they brought that pH back to the realm of paradise, 7.35 to 7.45. Now, if you're in LPN school, a lot of them don't really make you know about compensated, partially, fully, yada, yada. But, I mean, it's not rocket science, and it's only going to make you a better nurse. But you RNs out there, commit it to your frontal lobe. Okay? All right, let's do another one. So the pH is 7.12. That's hard. That's low. His CO2 is 60. That's high. And his bicarb is 26. That's still within the normal range. pH is telling me acidosis. The CO2 is telling me it's respiratory. So it's respiratory acidosis. You see that? I hope it's just simple as a kindergartner coloring red in the lines. Okay, so look at this one. This pH is 7.12. The CO2 is 60. And the bicarb is 29. That's high. So they're all out of whack. But we have to go with what follows the rule, and that will tell us where the problem started, where it originated. And so the CO2, I know it's the same, but anyway, come on with me down here. It's metabolic acid, it's respiratory acidosis, and it's partially compensated because